Hey YouTube, this is Frisky Dingo here, getting back with you guys with another reaction slash review video. Today we're looking at Nintendo's new announcement of a Switch OLED version console that's coming out, from what we've seen in the video, October, the same day as Metroid Dread. I think it's pretty cool that we're actually getting to get new information about a new Switch. There's been a lot of speculation over YouTube and over news articles, gaming journalists and such about a new Switch coming. A lot of times these game journalists and YouTubers get the information wrong. I remember back when the Nintendo Switch was first being announced, there was a lot of speculation that it wouldn't come out, that it wouldn't make sense because the Wii U was doing so strong with the new releases of games that were coming out, i.e. the Donkey Kong game, i.e. Zelda Breath of the Wild, and all the other new games that have came out with that system. So even back then, when it comes to Nintendo news, it's not really likable to trust journalists and other news outlets, because with Nintendo, they're very secretive of almost everything they do. So even when you look at Metroid Prime 4, like, we haven't heard anything about that game besides it's being in development for almost like 4 or 5 years now, 6 years actually. And even if you add like insider information, we haven't seen anything at all. So that just goes to the length of how far Nintendo goes with their information and how they don't like to expose a lot of things. Another big thing that this announcement came with was disappointment for a lot of fans, because they were expecting a little bit of a Nintendo Switch Pro version. Many people were asking for updated graphics because the current Nintendo Switch only runs on 720p, which causes graphic performance downtime on certain games. The most newest game receiving criticism was Doom Eternal's release on the current Switch. This announcement just came out about 2 weeks ago that Doom Eternal will be receiving a Switch version, and with the DLCs not announced. And when people saw the footage of it, it was pretty much lackluster. It wasn't really up to par with what people were expecting. A lot of people were expecting a little bit different in the sense of power performance. The game looked really blocky. That's a lot of the comments that I was seeing online about the game's release. Other than that, another big part was, like I said, the hardware capability. People wanted also a 4K display resolution, saying that it made no sense that the current games were operating on 720, because 720 is such a, I wouldn't say primitive format, but it is a primitive format in 2021. 720p being pretty much the basis for a lot of console games, even going back to the Xbox 360. There's been 3 different consoles since then. A lot of the newest Xboxes can run at higher resolution, higher frame rates, especially the Xbox One that came out a couple years back. That system especially runs on 120 frames on a new monitor and or TV, and it also runs at a capable max of 1440p. So that's pretty interesting. The fact that we're not really getting a really new Switch system, I think that's where a lot of people's disappointment are coming from. The OLED version, it's supposed to give you a little bit more of defined gameplay. I can honestly say that even if you look back at the PlayStation Portable Vita, the PS Vita LCD versus OLED release, that's a perfect example. Just so you can understand, the Switch version, the OLED, isn't going to really have a very difference between the current LCD format. That being said, the only thing you're going to get is more of a crystal clear gaming angle. So to basically say, when you use LCD, right, when you put it at certain angles, the viewing becomes a little bit more fuzzier. With the OLED, it gives you that perfect angle to angle viewing. So is it worth the $380 something, $360 something? In my opinion, I do believe it is. The current screen for the Switch, unfortunately, is not compatible for people with really big hands like myself. That's one of the biggest things I've seen a lot online. People who have the same hand size as me are feeling very uncomfortable with the viewing distance used for the current Switch. I can say for myself, when I do have the Switch in my hand, I'd rather to have it in my lap or even between my thighs playing than have it close up as if it's smaller than a tablet or a phone. So I think that's one of the biggest problems. I think they're trying to hit that general market of a bigger screen so that people feel more comfortable playing the game. A lot of times for me personally, because I have such big hands and my eyesight is kind of lacking, it's hard for me to really see a lot of the models when I'm playing certain games like Marvel Black Order. Marvel Ultimate Alliance Black Order. Just looking at the character models is hard, but then once I put it on my TV, I can see it crystal clean. But also, if I put it right up next to my face, I can see it, but also it's hard for me to like really play with my hands feeling all tight at the top. So I can see, I see where they were going with this system. Nintendo, they do use a lot of old technology, so it doesn't surprise me that they're using OLED performance for their screens. I honestly would say that it's a bad decision. That being said, because the Switch is still a console, and even at its height, it's a handheld console, right? So a lot of fans are going to be picking it up, dropping it, tossing it. I've had an OLED screen before for my Samsung Galaxy phone, and the OLED screens are not okay. They break easily. It's the same thing with the iPhone screens that went OLED for the 12. The same exact thing. The screens are not good in the sense of stability. Once they fall, they pretty much crack. That's the only thing I'm really scared of, because then it takes the Switch from being this fun playable thing to now being very cautious and protective of it. And that's something we never really had with Switch handheld devices. Nintendo handheld devices have always been extremely durable. From the Nintendo Advance, the SP, the DS, all very durable items. So to have this, I don't know where this sits in the sense of durability, but I hope I don't have to keep it on top of the charger. Is it an item that I want to purchase? I believe so. Just being able to get that crisp, clean look on the Nintendo screen is something I've been waiting for. Also, the ability to have a bigger screen so that my hands are comfortable with the distance in which I'm viewing from. That's another big thing for me. So it possibly might be a pickup for me. Honestly, come October, if I don't see any problems with people picking it up, if I don't see any problems with stocking, I most likely would try to pick it up myself. I mean, honestly, between that and the PlayStation, I don't see a reason for me to get a PlayStation 5 anytime soon. The games are extremely lackluster in the sense of what's coming out, and that's usually the case with console games. But with the new Switch OLED, I'll still be able to play the current games I have, but just at an upgraded display. And even with an extra Switch in the house, that makes, all the difference with other games that, you might want to play at home with your partner or your family members. Having that extra Switch does help sometimes. For a lot of people, they like to do the handheld to handheld experience. So it really just depends. So honestly, I'm going to give this announcement a 10 out of 10. It was, a good, perfect moment, especially with all the speculation that's been happening with Nintendo. Me personally, I don't like to speculate about Nintendo. They always do this. They don't do upgrades to their systems. They don't do pro versions of consoles. So none of this surprises me. I'm actually thrilled to hear about it, and I can't wait to hear more news from Nintendo. So hopefully we'll get some new news about the games that are going to come out in the next year or so. And if I get any more news, you guys know you can catch me in the next one.